EV World News broadcast. We're going to be discussing what is going on in the world of electric vehicles, green energy, and the stock markets related to green energy. So, our first article today we're going to discuss is on an article came out talk about renewables being on track to meet net zero goals by 2050. This has seemed a lot of people have felt that this is kind of unachievable, but what's surprising is the progress that's going on. A new report indicates renewables are on track to meet ambitious net zero scenarios by 2050. The report was titled X-Change Electricity on Track for Net Zero reveals a rapid and accelerating shift towards renewable energy sources. Solar and wind generation are expected to triple. The report predicts a remarkable tripling in solar and wind generation by 2030, highlighting on the exponential growth of clean energy in contrast to previous linear growth predictions. Fossil fuel demand seems to be peaking, and the fossil fuel era is considered to be over, as the report forecasts a significant drop in fossil fuel demand in the energy sector, estimating a reduction between 16 to 30% by the end of the decade. And some of the factors driving this is obviously a shift towards renewables, government commitments to the net zero goal, government subsidies, targets, grid regulations, permitting, and deployment efforts all are helping to achieve these goals. The current ongoing war in Ukraine has accelerated action in Europe to reduce dependence on Russian fossil fuel exports, which is now seen as a major security concern. And there's been
David, where you reading that off of, my friend?
it's from this report
You can
on.
always share the report also.
Okay,
Do a screen share on the bottom right there in the middle button and share that article.
okay, that's something we'll consider maybe a little bit later.
Okay.
Um, and one of the things they're claiming is plummeting costs in renewable energy sources such as solar and wind, that the costs have dramatically decreased, making them more economically viable than fossil fuel alternatives in the majority of locations worldwide. There's constantly new tech coming out, especially in solar now. Now, China, the report highlights China's leading role in energy transition, driven by its lack of significant domestic oil or gas supplies, allowing the government to drive rapid change and innovation without the influence of fossil fuel lobbies. China's made a huge push to develop electric cars, as we've seen. Diverse participation. The transition to renewables is not limited to wealthy nations. Countries with varying GDP, such as Denmark, the Netherlands, Uruguay, Palestine, and even Namibia, have achieved impressive renewable energy growth rates. So it's not been just limited to the first world. And obvious consumer benefits, because the exponential growth of clean energy will benefit consumers by putting more spending power in their pockets as it drives down the cost of electricity. Now, here's something that was interesting. Yesterday, an earnings report came out on Tesla following record-breaking quarter 2 car deliveries and price cuts. Now, I'm blessed to have Pro Trader Mike with us here today, and Mike will be co-hosting with me, and he'll be able to comment on what's going on. Have you looked at Tesla today, Mike?
Let me take a look right now. And yeah, Tesla right now today is actually down 7% and $20. Is that because the Nasdaq has made a big correction today and the Nasdaq has corrected, 5%? Is that why Tesla's down, or is it down because of bad news and changing of the guards? Is Elon selling? I saw a newsletter, Elon selling and maybe getting into other EV stocks, who knows until we see some
That's
filings, but
surprising to me because they're, like I was saying, they're having record-breaking deliveries, but they are doing some price cuts. Who knows? It seems though that as big as Tesla is, that a lot of the stock market seems to kind of, it does move along with the other tech stocks.
yeah, Tesla's down 7%. It seems like Tesla within the last 6 months has done dramatic price changes on the cars. I remember like 6 months ago, everyone was upset on Twitter because they had changed the price and they dropped it dramatically, and people had paid top dollar, and now it's so much less expensive. But now it's flipped and it's back the other way, where they raise the prices. So,
Well, we'll see what that holds.
Yeah.
Currently the prices of EVs are falling. Ford has joined in on price cutting, the reducing costs on the electric F-150 Lightning pickups. They haven't had the sales on the Mach-E or the F-150 that they've expected. Currently, electric vehicles only represent 7% of the U.S. market. And a lot of that's simply due to the high prices of electric vehicles. EVs generally cost anywhere from $5,000 to $20,000 more than their segment counterparts. I'm curious, do you want to take a look at Ford, see what it's done?
Look, yeah.
Because they've just announced that they're doing these changes in the pricing.
They having issues with their electric, with the F-150 and stuff. How's that sales on that going?
So the biggest thing I've seen is Ford has had growing pains on some of the getting the vehicle out there, and these are things that they'll work through. Because they've been making cars for 100 years and the electric side is new to them, but it's been everything from the chargers they send to people to have installed in their homes. There's been trouble with the third party that provides those. I've seen a number of complaints from people. One of the things in the working world that's a challenge is that 300-mile range drops to about 80 miles if you're towing a trailer. So if we're using it for legitimate, like construction work, things like that, it's got some cool features like you can plug your power tools right into the truck and use it as a generator for your power tools. But on the flip side, the range goes down quite a bit. And I know in my own experience in the construction business, a lot of your new subdivisions aren't exactly close to where the people work. And so that can be a bit of a challenge sometimes, just as far as its application commercially. But I'm sure technology will improve with that.
You want to take a look at the Ford?
I would.
So I share my screen. We'll take a look at the chart right here. Here's the Ford chart right here. You could see it in the since June, it's made a nice, let me just make sure I'm on the daily right here. I am. Made a nice trek up on the daily right here. And it went from 11 down here on the left side. And it went all the way up to a high right here on this red bar. Actually, it stopped right here at 1542. Came down to 1494. Retested 1542 exactly. That tells you that computers are really on top of the market, because as soon as it hit that number from this rise, it started to sell again. And maybe the people who was selling here knew that it was going to gap down, because what do you think? What's the news that made that happen? That was on 7/17, 3 days ago.
It was the news about them dropping prices on the F-150, I'm sure.
Yeah. So that's what it's done, and it's holding across this dotted line across, which is the VWAP. And for traders that don't know what that means, it's the value weighted average price. That's what that line is, the VWAP line.
I think one of the challenges you got right now is that interest rates keep going up. So anything from car sales to homes, they're all affected negatively by the increase in rates. I'm not really sure that people are all of a sudden deciding that Ford made too many F-150s. I think that's kind of a mix of the fact that car prices or car sales are stagnating a little bit, and they're just kind of feeling that crunch.
Mm-hmm.
So, but that's just my opinion.
Since May, Ford has made a dramatic run up, 30, 40, 30% even right there. And here's Tesla, and it made the same drop right here, TSLA, right here, made since this little U down here in May, and then it broke out above this line right there. So if you go boom, here it is right there. See that? As soon as it broke above that, that was a bit, and boom, off to the races. And then your next test for people that are trading, you're looking at the daily, is right there. Boom, at the top of that bar. And that's your second break. And then it stayed in all along here until it hit that red candle up there at $276 through $200 a share. Made a 70-point run without stopping. It's pretty amazing.
It is. It is. So, Mike, I appreciate you being on here today.
Thank you.
My thought is and we're still live. My thought is that for Fridays, we'll focus on evaluating a number of electric vehicle stocks,
Sounds
and
good.
the other days we'll continue with mostly news, and occasionally we'll bring a guest on for interviews as well.
Oh, that sounds great.
Yeah, because I have lots of CEOs I can bring in for interviews and people with cutting edge products. Anyways, um, everybody, this is our pilot for the EV World News. I'm going to end the stream now. Thank you for joining.